Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time? And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows, only time?
Morning! Welcome back to history class. Hope you had a good weekend. Last week we talked about a group of people who took over the north of Mexico and became known as the Aztecs. Well, today we're going to start with a new civilization that was started in the south of south of Mexico rather, and moved into Central America, even making it as far as the western part of Honduras. Have you ever heard or seen the ruins of Copan and wondered who those belong to? Well, they came from the civilization we're going to be talking about today. We're starting with today, talking about all week, and that is the Mayas, the Mayan civilization. Now, the Aztecs we mentioned last week started around 1100 years after Jesus was born, but they didn't really settle down and become the Aztecs until 1200 years after Jesus was born. Well, the Mayans were much older people. Archaeologists have found stuff dating back to the year 2000 BC on them, which means that it was just a few hundred years after Noah and his flood that the Mayan people settled in Central America. That makes them even older than the Olmecs, who showed up around the year 1200 BC. And in fact, the Mayas, a lot of what made the Mayas the Mayans, they learned from the Olmecs. The Olmec culture had a big effect on the Mayan civilization. Now, the Mayans were mostly farmers, and even though we said that they started farming that area around 2000 BC, they didn't start writing things down until about 700 BC, so not until about 1300 years later. But they were really good at farming, which meant they had a lot of food, which meant that their cities could grow very fast. And more of the people came together to build these cities. Okay, their biggest city that didn't become very important until later. The biggest city in this early years was called Tikal, and it became one of the major cities of the Mayan civilization. A few hundred years later, they started the idea of telling time by looking at the stars and at the seas and stuff like that. They started making calendars. Here's what a Mayan calendar looks like. And if you're asking me to tell you how that works, you come to the wrong person, because I don't understand how that works. I had it explained to me once, and I still don't understand how that works. I actually had one of those before we moved here to Roatan, but I lost it, sadly, when we moved. But they started making calendars about 400 BC, and then around 300 BC, they said, okay, what we have here, we need a new form of government. We have these people over here who are ruling themselves, and these people over here who are ruling themselves, and these people here ruling over themselves. How about if we all come together and form one people, one government? And they came together and formed a monarchy. Do you know what a monarchy is? A monarchy, it means it's a government that has a king. Roatan is not, Honduras rather. Honduras is not a monarchy because you have a president. You elect him. England is a monarchy because they have a king. Well, these planes just get louder and louder sometimes, it seems. Anyway, the Mayans came together and they formed a monarchy. They formed, they got themselves a king, and they set themselves up in the city of, let me see if I can pronounce this, it's kind of hard, Teotihuacan, in the Valley of Mexico. It was a couple hundred years later, and they started to build. What kind of things did they build? Well, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. There's not a whole lot to talk about today, because we're just starting out with the Mayans. We'll talk more about their culture and civilization on Tuesday and see what kind of stuff they did. For now, let's go over our questions for today. Question number 1. What civilization settled in the south of Mexico and in Central America? That was the Mayans. The Mayan civilization. Question number 2. When did this civilization begin? And that is sometime around the year 2000 BC. 2,000 years before Jesus was born. And then when they had a government, what sort of government did they have? They had a monarchy. They got themselves a king. Okay. Tomorrow, we'll spend some time talking about what life was like for the Mayans and stuff we know about their culture and civilization. So how about we stop for now, and then I will see you on Tuesday. Take care.